friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm here with a video for Sassy and Crafty today, and I have a video over on their website or on their YouTube channel as well. And I'm going to actually make 3 cards today. I'm going to do some simple ink blending and stenciling, and then add some very cute little teddy bear images. And these will be nice general cards, like everyday cards. So I'm just ink blending on some wild honey ink, and I'm kind of putting it randomly around the card. And then I pulled out, let's see, what color was this? This was Spiced Marmalade, and as I was doing it, I didn't feel like it was dark enough, so on my other backgrounds, I'm going to use Carved Pumpkin instead. So you can see I blended that around the card as well, and where the wild honey and the spiced marmalade meet, I took my wild honey blender and just tried to blend those together. So I'm adding ripe persimmon in the center, and a couple of these ink pads are really juicy, so I get a lot more ink on my card than I'm expecting with this. It makes a difference too when you're blending. If your ink pads are kind of dry, it makes it much harder to blend. So I'm just going to keep working on blending the points where 2 different ink colors meet, and kind of soften those lines a little bit. I'm using just regular Nina white cardstock here. Usually when I blend, I use Bristol paper because it blends so beautifully and you don't get the lines. But since these are nice juicy ink pads, I didn't worry about it too much. So I spritzed it with some water and then blotted it off. I love the effect I get. And then I'm starting with the first Sassy and Crafty stencil here. This one is called the Doodle Stencil, and I had to have this as soon as I saw it. I think it's a perfect stencil for mixed media projects, and I love doing mixed media projects, so I do quite a few of them. I don't share a lot of them on my blog or YouTube channel. I share some of them, but this stencil is going to get a lot of use on those projects. And I'm doing a little bit of mixed media here today on this one particular card, and but not as much as I would ordinarily do for a project just for myself. So you can see how fun that is. Like, that pattern is just fantastic. And the next thing I want to do is add some splatters, because this card just definitely needs some splatters. So I'm using ground espresso, by the way. That's what I used with the stencil. And the first time I did it there, I didn't put enough water down. You need a lot of water to really, get that soupy enough to give you some nice splatters. And I like to use that big round paintbrush, which is, by the way, it's a round size 12 paintbrush. So I put that aside and let it dry, and then I pulled out some white ink spray, and the sprayer doesn't work on this, so I just use it to splatter the white on, and that has to be set aside because that white ink for some reason takes a really long time. Now, another thing I'm doing here is I'm going to take the Sassy and Crafty Stuck on You stamp set. It's got these 3 sweet bears. I love the sentiments. There's a sentiment in there called that says Sending Joy, which is the sentiment I'm going to use on all 3 of my cards today. And then there's a little bird carrying a letter. So I'm going to stamp these out, and I'm going to color them with my Copics, and then cut them out with my brother's Scan and Cut. So I'm just putting them down in the paper so there's space between them, because on my brother's Scan and Cut, I like to leave the 0.4 space, which is I believe it's 0.4 of an inch, but that is the smallest white space that they will leave around the edge of the die cut. I just like a little of the white space around the edge of the die cut. So I'm using my Color Hive Remarkable Eclipse Black ink, and I love it. And I'm using my new Smoosher tool from Maker Forte. That Color Hive ink is from Maker Forte also, and look how beautifully that came out. So I like the Smoosher tool. It is really actually a nice tool for making sure you get your ink inked not inked, but stamped evenly throughout your whole image. So it's a very nice tool. Helps you apply the pressure you need. Now for the second background, I'm using this waffle cone stencil, which I think is super fun. I just added the wild honey, and then I'm adding carved pumpkin, and I'm taking that wild honey blender again and just blending the seam between the two, and then I'm adding the ripe persimmon. I love this. It's kind of an orangey red, and then I'll take the carved pumpkin blender tool and do the line between the two, and that one was so quick and easy. Now these panels I cut originally at 4¼ by 5½. I'll trim them all down to 4 by 5¼ when I'm all done. For my third panel, again, I'm just going to do some simple ink blending, and this time I'm just kind of going to do it diagonally, and I'm going to use the same 3 colors. This one is wild honey, then the carved pumpkin, and this again is a super juicy ink pad. Like, so much ink just went down there. It's amazing. It just so, like, it's a new ink pad, so it really does add a lot of ink when it's new. It's funny. So I'm just using that wild honey blender to blend the seam, and I'll add the ripe persimmon to the bottom, and then I'll pull out the carved pumpkin blender and again get that seam between the carved pumpkin and the ripe persimmon and just kind of smooth it out. And as they dry, the blend will actually look better also. And for this one, I love this stencil. This stencil is called Bouncy Path stencil, and it coordinates with the Stuck on You, and there's one other stamp set that it coordinates really well with. Like, the stencils from Sassy and Crafty are very intentionally designed to coordinate with the stamp sets that are released the same month the stencils are. So these were created to mail, like postal mail stamps sets, but I love it so much. I feel like I've used it for so many different stamp sets. Now I went ahead and colored my bears and the bird, cut them out with my brother's Scan and Cut. Now I'm just popping them up on foam, and for some reason I just really love the aesthetic of putting the little critters in the corner. I try to put them in different spots around the card, but I like having the that focal image in one of the corners. And I'm going to stamp the Choose Joy, and I got a little too much ink on it the first time I did that. I don't know why. I think I just pushed it too hard into the ink pad. It's a foam ink pad, so you just want to like lightly tap that on there. So I'll fuss around and I'll put those sentiments on each one of those cards, and that's going to complete my cards. I will actually put the links below to all of the goodies that I've used here today for Sassy and Crafty, and the tools and inks that I've used as well. I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel while you're here, and click that bell to get notifications every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. Have a wonderful day.